Hello everybody. Now today I'm going to be bringing you another MMA what ifs video. A lot of people have watched the last two I made. The last one I made was Tony Ferguson versus Khabib. If you want to go watch that video, check it out. The link will be in the description down below. Now in today's video I'm going to be discussing what if Fedor Emelianenko and Jon Jones had a fight. Now, for those of you who, a lot of you guys will probably know who Jon Jones is, but some of you guys might not know who Fedor Emelianenko is. So let me give you the brief rundown on Fedor. So Fedor Emelianenko is one of, if not the greatest MMA fighter of all time. He ended his career with a professional MMA record of 40 wins, 6 losses, and 1 no contest, meaning a draw. Now, Fedor, his career spanned over 20 years, and he was mostly in the Pride Heavyweight Championships, and he remained undefeated in there for nearly a decade. Emelianenko's first loss only came after his 23rd year in the sport, and it was an iffy loss. He only lost, so you got to look at it like this: he lost 6 times, but he won 40 fights. And his own losses only came when he got older. He retired in 2023 at the age of, I believe, 45 or 46, which is actually, a pretty good age considering, his career has been so, perfect in a way for so long. But now we are going to discuss what would happen if Fedor Emelianenko and Jon Jones had a fight. And we're going to get onto that right now. Now, Jon Jones holds a MMA record of 27 wins, 1 loss, and 1 no contest. His only loss came from a disqualification against Matt Hamill in 2009 due to illegal elbows, but that fight was widely considered a controversial decision. Now, to look into Jon Jones's record on who he's fought, alright, he's fought a lot of solid fighters. So he fought Daniel Cormier twice, but then again, Daniel Cormier was a bit older at this time. If it was prime DC, who knows how that would have went, but it was a bit of an older Daniel Cormier. He fought Alexander Gustafsson twice, and he won both times. He fought Shogun Rua, an amazing fighter, by the way. He fought Rashad Evans, who was seen on The Ultimate Fighter against Rampage Jackson, and Rashad Evans lost by unanimous decision at UFC 145. He fought Lyoto Machida, and Jones defeated, he was a former UFC light heavyweight champion as well, but he defeated Lyoto Machida by submission at UFC 140. He defeated a few other fighters too, like Glover, and a few other fighters, right? But you have to also look at who Fedor fought in his career. So he fought Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira, who I believe was a future UFC champion. He fought Mirko Cro Cop, who was a Pride champion for a while, and who was also a UFC champion in the future. Kevin Randleman, who was a Pride champion as well, who also became a UFC champion. Andrei Arlovsky, who was a former heavyweight champion in the UFC. Fedor lost to him. Fedor beat him. Brett Rogers, who was another amazing fighter at the time. Fabio Maldonado, who was a very tough Brazilian fighter. Fabio was a very known fighter at the time, and he was pretty fucking good, and Fedor just ragdolled him. And then Randy Couture, and these were all amazing fights that Fedor won. He also fought against Mark Coleman, Roy Nelson, Gary Goodrich, who were all UFC champions, these three. Chael Sonnen, he was never a champion, but he was a very high-tier fighter. They fought in Bellator back in 2018. And I think one of the most underappreciated knockouts from Fedor was against Tim Silva. It was in 2008. Fedor knocked him out, and Tim Silva was also a former UFC heavyweight champion. Fedor knocked him out in just 36 seconds, which is just incredible, okay? But now we have to look into what would actually happen if Jon Jones and Fedor fought each other, okay? Now, the big thing is this is under Pride rules or UFC rules. I'm going to go UFC rules just for the sake of it being evened out for both, because Fedor did fight in Bellator for a while, so he's going to know, those rules as well, because they're pretty similar for the most part. But now we're going to talk about what would happen if they actually fought. Now, I think at the beginning, what's going to happen is John is going to try and use his longer reach against Fedor. John Jones's arms are like 84 inches long from shoulder to middle finger, so he has a very long reach. Fedor's is only like 65 to 75 inches long, I believe, from shoulder to middle finger. So John Jones has something like a 10 to 20 inch reach advantage over Fedor. So Fedor is going to probably have to try some very serious stuff here. The thing with John Jones, though, is when he's keeping his distance away from people, he's trying to wait for an opening. Fedor has his guard very low. He has his hands to his waist, but Fedor has very good distance management. And keep in mind, Fedor has fought heavier and taller guys than John Jones. But he hasn't fought many people who are as skilled as John Jones and have as much of a fight IQ as John Jones. So in the first round, I think is going to go, John is going to try and keep his distance, move around, try and get some counter punches in. Fedor has a very strong defense, strong chin, and very strong, fighting style. So Fedor is probably going to try and rush in, get a few punches off, then back off again and wait for a reaction from John. I think what's going to go down is mostly the first round, I think, is going to be a bit of a tie. Mostly in the favor of John, I think, in the first round. Maybe, well, no, not really, actually. I take that back. I think it's going to go in the favor of Fedor in the first round. Because the thing with John Jones is, John Jones has very accurate punches. He can hit all your vital spots and all your open spots very well and very fast. But John Jones doesn't have the strongest strikes. His strikes aren't too strong. And Fedor hits like a fucking truck. And he's fast as hell, too. His punches are faster than John Jones. Punches. And they are heavier and harder too. He is a very fast striker, especially for a heavyweight. He's not just fast for a heavyweight, he's just fast in general. He moves like a welterweight, but he's like 235. So you have to look at that as well. So the first round, I think, is going to be a tie in the favor of Fedor Emelianenko. That's how I think the first round is going to go. Second round, I would say, is going to go down like this. Second round, John Jones is going to try some other stuff. He's going to try some takedowns, but Fedor has very good takedown defense. So if it goes into a ground game fight, it's going to be in Fedor's favor all the way, because while John Jones has very good takedowns and submissions, Fedor has an even greater takedown and submission defense. He's never really been submitted like that, I don't believe. So we're going to be looking at like John Jones trying to take Fedor out on the ground and Fedor countering. He's probably not going to immediately try and pull into a submission because he knows John Jones is strong as fuck when it comes to escaping the submissions. So he's probably going to try and do some ground and pound, punching him on the ground or whatever. That's what I would presume most likely is going to happen in the second round. And then we also have the possibility of what if it doesn't go to the ground? Well, in that case, I think it's going to go like this. John Jones is going to try and outstrike Fedor, but it's not going to work because nobody that's tried to outstrike Fedor, like trade blows with Fedor, has ever come out on top with that. Fedor just knocks them out so fast. So that's something that could happen. They're going to try and like trade blows with each other, and Fedor is going to inflict a lot of damage there. And I think John might try and throw like a kick in there, like a high kick to the head, because Fedor has a very low guard. So he doesn't expect Fedor to be able to raise his hands quick enough. What I think would happen is Fedor will read John Jones's body in a way. Like when he just starts to go for the kick, he's going to change his stance a bit. He has to change his stance to go for a left high kick to the head. So what I think will happen is, and this has happened when Fedor has fought people like Mirko Cro Cop, a taller opponent with good kicks to the head, Fedor would wait for the kick. When the kick is about to arrive, go under it and go for a single leg while their leg is in the air. So that there's a very good amount of possibility in the second round. But I think if anyone wins the second round, it's going to be Fedor. In the first one, you could argue that John Jones may win the first round, but I think it's going to go to Fedor in the second round. Now to think about the third round, I think this is where the fight is going to get really close to the end. I think the fight would end in round 4. I think third round, John Jones would probably start to like get some more punches in, strike, get some more points, try and go for some takedowns, try and punch him a bit, whatever, just to try and earn some points. Because he doesn't think he's going to be able to knock out Fedor, so he's going to try and go for a submission, I think. Because John Jones has never been like a one-punch knockout guy. He just barrages you with punches and kicks and elbow strikes and stuff to get you so tired. That way he could just like choke you out on the ground or punch the shit out of you on the ground. So I think what's going to happen most likely is that third round may go to John, but it may come to a draw again. And what I think will happen in the third round, he's going to try and get Fedor tired. He's going to try and land some kicks on him, but mostly get him tired from like running around and shit, which isn't going to really work too well. Fedor has very good conditioning and stamina, So it's very unlikely to actually work. But that's what I think would happen in the third round. The third round would be a bit stale, but it would go in the favor of John just due to like points and stuff. Now, the fourth round, I think, is where this all ends. The fourth round, I think, is going to go like this. John Jones goes for a takedown on Fedor. Fedor is on his back. John Jones gets on top for a second. A few strikes are, thrown between John Jones and Fedor. Fedor mostly on the guard, trying to get like 1 or 2 counter punches in while John is raining down a bunch of blows on Fedor. I think what will happen from there is going to be like... I think what will happen is like... Fedor is going to rotate John, get himself on top of John, rotate the position, and then try and go for something like an arm bar, or maybe try and get John on his hands and knees and then put him in a rear naked choke, something like that. I think Fedor would submit John Jones most likely because John Jones's striking is more accurate and everything than Fedor. That's the one thing he has, but Fedor hits harder. He's a little bit faster than John Jones, and Fedor just has such better ground game when it comes to striking on the ground, submissions, defense, and everything else. His ground game is just miles ahead of John Jones. And don't get me wrong, John Jones has some advantages. He has the longer legs, the longer arms, the height advantage. He has the reach advantage. He has the, and the striking, down in a way where it's like, you just barrage someone with punches until they get tired, and then you can knock them out or choke them out on the ground. But against someone like Fedor, it's not going to work. So, in my honest opinion, I think in a hypothetical match, Fedor Emelianenko would beat John Jones, most likely by a submission. And I know that's going to, spark a lot of controversy because of people saying, oh, John Jones is the greatest heavyweight of all time. He's one of the greatest, but he's not the greatest, in my opinion. He's definitely a top 5, top 3 UFC fighter overall. Don't get me wrong, he's one of the greatest of all time, but is he the greatest of all time? No. I think that title rightfully belongs to Fedor Emelianenko. No one has had such a illustrious career like Fedor Emelianenko when it came to his wins, when it came to who he beat, when it came to the fact like Fedor only fought main event fights. Every fight he had from Pride to Bellator were all main event fights. From start to finish. He never had one like sideshow fight or whatever. They were all main event fights for Pride, FC, and Bellator. So that really tells you something as well. And then you also have the fact that Fedor never really had any controversies in his career as well in comparison to John Jones. John Jones, he beat his wife. He also hit a pregnant woman with his car and then drove away, and a whole bunch of other fucked up shit. And that doesn't take away from his fighting skill or anything, but it takes away from his legacy in a way. It makes him extremely controversial and extremely just... all sorts of stuff. It's just a very fucked up situation. But I believe, though, that if the two fighters, John Jones and Fedor Emelianenko, fought at their prime, at their peak, and at their full capability, I think Fedor walks out of that fight, in my honest opinion. And that's going to upset people, but fuck it, I don't care. That's my honest opinion. Anyways, that's going to be it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, feel free to leave a like. And if you want to see more stuff like this in the future, feel free to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment letting me know what you want to see in the future. Anyways, I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.